Okay, so we were discussing about an important topic called virtual memory. So what did we say? We said that we said that there is this CPU and there is this guy and he has some registers. We are not worried about the cache as of now. So we said that there is this main memory, and of course the main memory is now we have made it as limited. So we said that it was 256 bytes, so it's 0xFF. And then there is this infinite memory. Of course, we are assuming again it's infinite memory, which can store anything that you want. Right? So you can store anything you want. So we wanted to run multiple processes on this system. We said that we want to run process 0, process 1, so on and so forth. So one of the ways to achieve this is, let's say we give the entire main memory. So let's say process 0 comes. We say that for process 0, you have 256 bytes. So we said that you have 256 bytes of memory. Right. So, and when process 1 comes, we say that you have 256 bytes of memory. But you actually have only 256 bytes of memory. Here you are saying that you are committing to something which is 512 bytes, which is not true. But we are saying that for both of the processes, we have said what is a process? Process is a program in running. It's just a program with life, right? It's actually getting instructions executed. So you said process 0 has 256 bytes, process 1 has 256 bytes. And how do I schedule it? Let's say I start with process 0. So this is time multiplexing. So I for some time, for say some time I run process 0. And then when like let's say I run it for 2-3 minutes or say 2-3 seconds or whatever it is, and then I will launch process 1. So but I cannot just overwrite process 0's data because process 0 might have filled up some data here. So I just copy this data. So I copy this data and put it here and then give this data to process 1. So maybe, so now what do? I actually copied this data to the hard disk. Right. So there was the write, and then I read process 1. So which means that I copied that blue thing here. And now maybe process 1 is using this. And after some time, I say, okay, I will write this to data and read process 0. And then I write and then read. So I keep doing this. So I write, read, write, read. So I keep doing this multiplexing. But the disadvantage is that the disk is very slow. This is pretty slow when compared to the main memory. Of course, cache is faster when compared to the main memory. Main memory is faster when compared to the hard disk. Right? So this is the actual hard disk, HDD or SSD, whatever you want to call it. So it's a secondary storage. You might have different memory architectures there, but we are not worried about it. But we say that the space is, we have allocated some space in the hard disk apart from the space that you store files and all those things. It is pretty slow. So when I want to switch between P0 and P1, the time it takes is very slow. It's like I just do an alt tab. Let's say I'm running Zoom and I just do an alt tab. You can see that sometimes when I do an alt tab, the next window comes. It takes some time for the next window to load. Maybe because this was in the hard disk and it has taken some time to load. So, but the user will get frustrated because if the process 0 is running and suddenly process 1 shifts, so your process becomes slow. So this is not a scalable solution. So one of the so I will propose. So this was the first design to support multi-processes. So let's call this as the first design. But we will say I will only propose this. I will propose the second design, and we'll see then what to build about it. So I am assuming that this is clear. So does anybody have any questions regarding the first design? Okay. So if there are no questions, we'll go to the second design. So we said, okay. So we'll have the same CPU. So we'll have the same CPU, but we say that process 0 has 128 bytes and process 1 has 128 bytes. So it is, so you are saying this is process 0 and this is process 1. Right? So this is process 1 and this is process 0. Okay. So this is one design. So I've split up the memory and I still have the hard disk connected. So if process 2 comes, then I can shift one of the processes. Let's say process 2 comes, then I can say that you can shift one of the processes, but at least I am running 2 processes at the same time. If the third process comes, then I can always shift process 0 to hard disk and load. Maybe I can do this, right? So I can say, okay, I will remove this and put process 3 here. Right? I can do that. But let's say I am assuming only 2 processes, it still works. So, and now I don't have to shift, there's no reading and writing. But the disadvantage is that for each of the processes, I have said that there is only 128 bytes available. Okay. So are there? So I think we stopped here. So if I ask you, is there any issue with this design? What's the answer?
The total memory for one program is less.
Yeah, the total memory available is less, right? So that is the problem. Let's write down the problem. So this is the second design that we are talking about. So we'll write down all the problems. So total memory available is less. Okay. Any other problem? Only one problem or any other problems? Hello. Yeah.
Suppose you have only one process, you're still using less
Yeah.
than
So so let's say that comes under total memory available. So my goal is to give what is my goal in the second design? See, the first design was very good because it was giving 256 bytes for everybody. So I went to the second design because I wanted to remove this read write. Right? So I wanted to remove this read write. So I went to the second design. But in the second design, I am compromised on the memory. Right? So you are right that I am not giving this. So I am not utilizing the memory properly. So that is one problem. Is there any other problem? Yeah, any answer is fine. So anyway, you no longer judged or anything. So whatever comes to your mind, you can say. Are you not seeing any other problem in this issue?
Sir, the programmer doesn't know where to write, so the memory operations may miss it.
Yeah, right, exactly. So let's say I wrote a program which does matrix multiplication, okay, and .c I wrote, and then maybe the assembler was generating code from 0x0, and I launched it on one of the systems. I launched it on one of the systems, and here it is 0x0, 0x80, and 0x. You have told the compiler that you can use only 128 bytes, and it's really sweet. It doesn't do anything other than that. So, and you have launched it here. So it is running perfectly fine. It runs everything. But you copy the same, like you take the same executable and you say that, okay, I will launch it on my friend's system. So maybe this is your friend's system, right? And you launch it on the friend system. And unfortunately, in your friend system, he is already running one more process here. Right? So he is running his own process here. Now he'll say, okay, I will schedule it here. So will your code work if I schedule it here? Like you remember, right? You wrote this bubble sort and all those things in assembly. What did you write? You wrote that, okay, load R1, comma 0, X, right? So something like this, right? I don't remember the syntax, but you might have written something like this, right? 0x3, and then, right? So you would have assumed that the 0x3 is available for you, right? So now does this system work if I just copy, or maybe you launch it on your own system later at some point of time, maybe it gets scheduled here. So does your code work? It doesn't work, right? Because you have assumed that you work from 0x0. Maybe you have hard-coded, so it has hard-coded these values. So this doesn't work. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So there is no portability. No portability. Yeah. Any other problem?
Sir, we have only one ALU, so
yeah, that we cannot. I mean, I can't add more cores. Let's say I have only one area. I can just keep shifting back and forth. So my goal is to launch multiple processes on a single ALU. That's what we have started with. But make it very efficient, as good a design as possible. So that's the goal. So we are not talking about multiple areas at all. There are no other issues here.
Sir, when the cache is present, then that will lead to some more complications, right?
Let's not worry about cache now. Let's assume that there is no cache. There's one bigger problem here. I don't know why. I think you're all good people, so maybe you're not thinking about it this way.
One program can try to mess up the other.
Yeah, right. Yes, right. So there is no security at all, right? So why? Because what is the guarantee that, let's say I launch this program, the process 0 can generate an address. Let's say you told that process 0 you have 128 bytes from 0x0 to 0x80. But this process 0 is just an evil process. Maybe it generates an address 0x83. And it will go and read what this other process is doing. Maybe the other process is doing something else where it's trying to read this data, right? So there are these hardware attacks that happen, right? So I don't know whether you follow the Spectre meltdown and cache timing attacks and things like that. That's what they do. Like if you see this RSA algorithm, right? So the RSA algorithm is impossible to beat I don't know, you might have heard of this algorithm called RSA, right? So it's impossible to beat, but people have been able to beat this not by using, building an algorithm, by using the hardware side channel attacks. They were able to decrypt the key. It's like they were able to decrypt the key of whatever password you have, even though it was encoded using RSA. So you can, so there is no security. So now we are stuck with the second design where there are three problems. One is total memory available is less. The other is portability. The other is security. Okay. Is this okay?
Yes.
Okay. But I will tell you a solution. Let's tackle the solution before going to the second design. We call it 2.1 design, where I am okay with the total memory available to us is less. I want to first talk about security. So what do I do if I'm okay with this? Let's say I'm okay with the second design, but I want to solve security. How will you solve the security issue?
You put a check on every memory access.
Yes, right. So I just put a check here. So what do I do? So I just put a check here. So I will have. So now instead of this going, instead of this going this, so there will be a table, right, where I will have process 0 and process 1, and the table will allow me to do. So I know that process 0 is from 0x0 to 0x80, and process 1 is 0x80 to 0x80. Right? So if process 0 generates an address, then that address will not be given to the main memory at all. So I just added one more slide as a very tiny table, which has the addresses that is being generated. So I solved the security issue by doing this. You might think that this is a dumb solution, but this was one of the solutions that people explored long before virtual memory came into being. So they explored this. They had this particular table which was trying to figure out, okay, is this process generating an address which it should not be generating, and kill that process or whatever it is. Right? Now, who will do this and all will not come into. We'll not tackle these questions now for now. But let's say somebody is tackling it and somebody is killing the process. So I solved the security issue. Can I solve the portability issue? So what is the portability problem? If process 0 starts from 0x0 to 0x80, let's say process 0 started on 0x0 to 0x80. If I move it to 0x80 to 0xFF, it should still work. I mean, the same process if I'm given the memory 0x8 to 0xFF, it should still work. How can I make it work?
So we can always write programs assuming 0 to 080, but some guy can offset it if it's supposed to be in.
Yes, right. So what should I do? Let's say I write a program, right? So this is my huge program, right? Instead of hard coding all values, I have something called a base address. So I start this base address. So let's say I start this base address. So what is that? What will I set this base address to? So the user doesn't know, right? So now I am the program. I am writing this matrix multiplication. All my instructions are using this base address. Right? So whenever I am calling, it will be base address plus 3, base address plus 4, so on and so forth. So I don't write absolute address. I always write relative address, and it is always relative to base address. But what will I set this base address to? Should I set it to 0x0 or 0x80?
0x80 is it in P1 or?
No, right? This is a program. I am writing this program. So when I write this program, I don't know whether it will be running, whether it will be running here, whether it will be running here or here. I don't know. So what will I write in the base address? So any trick that you want to use? So are you understanding the problem? If somebody is not understanding, I will not ask any polls this time because you are come with your own interest. So please feel to ask. Nobody will judge you. I mean, these are all things that people have already thought about, come up with a solution. No, nothing is not. I mean, one good thing is there is no dumb answers here, right? At least in algorithms there might be, but here there is no dumb answers at all. So what can you do?
Just some base pointer, maybe some stack.
Yeah, but how will I mean, I have to write some address right here. Okay. So what you can do is you can actually leave this blank. So let's say I left this blank. I don't set anything to this base address. So what do? I set this base address to nothing. This is just a blank. Okay. And then I say, okay, I load R1 comma say 0 plus base address. Load R2 comma 0 plus, sorry, R2 plus 4 plus base address, right? And then I say add R3 comma R2 comma R1, and then store R3 8 plus 4. So everything is relative, so there is no absolute addressing, but this base address itself, I have left it black. Now, when the program is launched, when this program gets a life of its own, right? So even the compiler will not generate any address here; it will just keep it black. When the program gets a life of its own, before the life is pushed into it, the system, the guy who is sitting here, somehow fills this up. So if this guy is launching this particular matrix multiplication here, he will write 0x0. If he is launching it here, then maybe in this machine will write 0x8. So when the program is taking a life of its own and being converted to a process, I fill this base address. I fill this base address alone, and everything else works perfectly fine. Do you agree to this?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this solves the portability problem. So I have
Sir,
solved.
can you explain? Sir, can you explain security again?
Okay, security. Okay.
This thing I understood.
Okay, security. Okay. So you understood what's the problem with the security, right? Okay.
One program messes up with other, but how exactly I don't know, sir.
Okay. Let's say I told process 0. Let's say I told process 0 that you can use 128 bytes, and process 1 128 bytes. How much memory is available? 256 bytes. This is the second design I'm talking about. Process 0 is given 128 bytes. Process 1 is given 128 bytes. So you are told the process 0 that your addresses are from 0x0 to 0x80. Okay. Now, somewhere in the program that the person is writing for process 0, he has written load R3 comma 0x84. Now, is there a way that this instruction will be executed? This is process 0. Do you think that this instruction will be executed? Yes, right. It will be executed.
It will be executed.
Yeah. So
it
now,
will be executed.
Yes. So now, what data is it getting? It is getting this data.
Yes, sir.
Let's say the process 1 had stored its. Let's say process 1 is authenticating your Gmail. Right? Let's say it's authenticating your Gmail. You have entered the password, and the password is stored here. I mean, just assume that the password was stored here. Okay. Of process 1. So process 1 is a Firefox. He's a different user. He has entered his Gmail password. Now process 0 can read this value, right? Process 1 can read this value and actually figure out what the process 1 is doing. Or it can write something there and totally mess up with process 1. So there is no way for me to check what process 0 is doing. So that was the security issue. But how can I overcome that? I just have to have a table here. So I have a table here. Whatever address is generated, I check whether that address belongs to that process or not. If it belongs, then I allow it to access the memory. Let's say process 0 now generated 0x84. It went to the table. It saw that it has 0x0 to 0x8, which means that it has generated an address which it should not be generating, and it just doesn't allow it to go to the main memory. So by just having one redirection, I'm able to solve this problem of security.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So I was able to solve portability, I was able to solve security, but of course I'm not happy about it because this total memory available is less. I just wanted to tell you that you can solve portability and security without using virtual memory. So this generally is the misconception. If you read a textbook or if you are listening to a lecture video, they might generally say virtual memory is there for you to have security. That is not true. You can solve security without having virtual memory. But it's just that it has been forgotten that nobody does it. But you can solve it. I mean, there's nothing that is stopping you from solving it. Okay, but anyway,
So this fix for portability is limited to only if all systems have the same size of main memory and only same number of divisions, right?
Yes. So now, Debashi is saying she's still not happy here also. Right? So she's still not happy because she's saying, what if I want to move to a system which has a 32 bytes alone? Then I will not even be able to run this program. So the assumption here is that you should run it on it. So you have written a program which uses 128 bytes. So I want to support 128 bytes. So if the system doesn't support 128 bytes, I will not be able to. Okay. But yes, you're right that it completely doesn't fix the problem. So you want to have one hammer which solves these three problems completely without me worrying about anything else. This individually, I can come up with one of the solutions. Like if I want to solve this problem of total memory available is less, I can go to design one. But if I go to design one, it is slow. In design one, there is no issue with the security. There is no issue of anything of the other sort. But it is pretty slow. So now I want to have a hammer which solves portability, which solves scalability, sorry, solves security, which solves total memory available, and it is not slow. Right? So let's see what the solution is. So I will do something like this. So if I have I still have this machine, right? I still have this machine, and this machine has 0x0 to 0xFF. So it still has 256 bytes. It still has 256 bytes. Now I say process 0 also has 256 bytes. This is the same as first design. There is no difference, but there is one slight difference that I come up with. So this also has 0x. And then there is this process 1, which also has 256 bytes. But then I divide the memory here into chunks of 64 bytes. So I divide this memory into chunk of 64 bytes. So this is a chunk of 64 bytes. So I divide 64 bytes, 64 bytes. So I divide it into 64 bytes. I do the same thing here also. This you should see that it is just in the dream, right? It's in the dream. This person is just dreaming. This is not real. So this is just virtual world. It's just as the process is thinking that there is 256 bytes. This is just a dream. This is the reality. Because there is 256 bytes. There is hardware here. The hardware backed up by the secondary storage. But this is just a dream. This is like Maya, right? So it doesn't have anything there. So I divide the same thing. Whatever division I followed here, I follow the same division. And I will do the same division for here. Whatever any number of processes that come, I do the same division. I will name this as block A, block B, block C, block D. I will name this as block A, block B, small letter. Now, what I do is something like this. I will share, like let's say process 0 starts running. Let's assume that process 0 starts running. Right? And it starts using this particular A, the small a. Then I schedule small a here. I allocate this A here. And after some time, it maybe doesn't use B, but it starts using C, this particular memory C. Okay? I hope you are able to see this particular memory C. Okay? Then I put map this capital B to small c. So I map the small c to capital B. Okay. At some point, so now for some time process 0 was running. At some time now I switch out this process 0. Now the CPU takes up. So the CPU takes up. So CPU was running P0. Now the CPU takes up process 1. So now in process 1, maybe it directly touches say small d. Or maybe it touches small c. It also touches small c. Okay, initially it touches small c. So now I schedule this c here. This process 1 c here. Right. So now what have I done? I have put process 0's a here, process 0's c here, and process 1's c here. Right. So this is the mapping that I have. Okay. So, but now how do I know what I have scheduled? I keep a table. What table I keep? I have some table like this. So please remember that this is a virtual world. Okay, so this is only when, so now in the virtual world, this dream has been realized. Maybe buying a car has been realized, marrying has been realized, but some other thing has not yet been realized. This has not yet been realized, right? So each process, now I will create a table. So I have a table here. I have a table here. So this table, let's assume is also virtual. I have kept it somewhere, but I will not tell you where I kept it. So now I have these tables which has A, B, C, D. In operating system, you will see how to efficiently design these tables. But but we'll not get into it now because it will come in your operating systems class. So now the small a has been scheduled to capital A, right? So I write capital A here. B hasn't been scheduled anything. Small c has been scheduled to B, and D has been scheduled nothing. A has been scheduled nothing, B has been scheduled nothing, C has been scheduled to capital C. So these are the two tables. Is it clear till now, or do you have any questions regarding this? Is this okay?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's say process 0 generates an address. Let's say process 0 generates an address. The address that is generated is in its dream. So it's just, it is, why is it, why am I calling it a dream? Because it's assuming that it has been given 0x0 to 0x, which is not a reality because it is sharing this 0x, it is sharing this 0x0 to 0x255 with some other process. But that it doesn't know. It assumes that it has all the 2 digits, right? So it generates an address. So what is the first thing that you will access? When the process 0 generates an address, what is the first thing that you will access?
The table.
Yes, the table, right? So let's say it generated an address 0x83. So let's say it generated an address 0x83. Now you go and access this table. Right? So this particular table you access. Now, do you want, what address will this table tell you? Will it give you 0x83 or will it give you something else?
It will tell you to go to capital B.
Yeah, but what address, can you guess the address that it is generating now?
0x43.
Yes, right, 0x43. This is the reality. I asked God for a job with $1 million. He gave me not even 1 million lakhs, right? Something like that. So 0x43. So now I will access that. So 0x43 is maybe somewhere here. Somewhere here. So I access that. Now, once I access it, I give it back to the CPU. Now, does this guy does the guy know, should the guy know that you did not access 0x83, but you access 0x43? Should the guy know about it?
Not required.
Not required, right? Because you are started cheating that guy, right? So though he is intelligent, though he is faster than you, you have started cheating him. You said that, okay, you don't have to know it. You asked for 0x83. Whatever the data is there in 0x83, I am fetching the same data, but I am accessing some other memory location. Is this clear?
Yes.
Yeah, it's logical, so I am assuming it's clear. If it's not clear, let me know. Okay. So now let's say process 1 generates an address. It also generates an address 0x83. Again, you will have to go to the table. Now, what address will it give according to our table?
0x83.
0x83 only. Why? Because I am mapping the small c to capital C. So I just go and access. Okay. So now this is clear. I hope everybody is clear. Let's take one more example. Let's say P0 generates zero x43. So you went to the table. Okay. You saw that the B is not yet allocated. Of course, there are two different things that will come to later. Let's say it says that this mapping is not there. I mean, it's the entry of small b is there, which means that at some point in its life, it had access to B, but now this small b hasn't been mapped anywhere, right? So now there's a miss. What miss is this? It's the memory miss, not the cache miss. There's a miss in the main memory. It's similar to cache. I mean, if you think about it, it's actually similar to cache. You generated an address. The table said that yes, there is an entry called small b. There is an entry called small b. There's an entry called small b. But now that is still there in the dream, but it is not yet been a reality. Which means that that's where can that small b be?
In the
Can you guess?
secondary memory.
Yes, right. So now the thing is, we'll see what actually the secondary storage is having. So in somewhere in this secondary storage, somewhere in this big barrel, right? Somewhere in this big barrel, I have process zeros. I have process zeros A, B, C. And somewhere in this main memory, I also have process 1's ABCD. So in that big barrel, in that secondary storage, I have all the processes, all the pages. So now there is a table miss. Now what do? What should you do now? What should you
Fetch
do?
that data from
Fetch that, right? That is similar to cache. So now I go to the secondary storage. So of course, I means now I will not go, nor this girl will go, right? Because this girl just keeps running from here to here, or maybe from the cache to the main node. Right? So there is some other person now again, maybe a second girl here, who is running between the secondary storage and this main memory. She will go fetch this particular small c, right? This particular small b. So he will go and fetch this particular small b and bring it here. So where should she keep this small b?
D.
D, right? Because D is empty. I know that D is empty, right? So I keep small b here. I keep this small b here, and then I convert this address 0x43 to what address?
0xC3.
0x3. Okay. Is this clear till now?
Yes, sir.
Now let's say I'll take another process 1, same process. Maybe it generated an address 0x0. Now you went to the table. You saw that there is an entry. There is an entry here for table A, but it has not yet been allocated in the main memory. Which means that where is it? It is here in this big barrel. Right? So you tell this girl to fetch this particular A. So she runs, brings that A here. Now where should she keep it?
LRU. Some kind.
LRU. Excellent. Right. So LRU. Okay. So now maybe in the LRU it told me that you have to remove this particular, say the LRU maybe was this particular C. Okay, maybe this particular A. So I remove this particular A, and now I keep. So can I just remove that particular A, or should I do something else?
You need to write back to the secondary.
Yes, right. So first she'll write this small a, that is process 0's A, to this particular location, right? So she'll copy this to this particular location, right? And then bring this particular A here. Of course, it need not be A. By now, you would have guessed that it need not be A or B or C. So now this address will be again converted to 0x0 because you have it. So do you think this works?
Sir, but here, let's say that the leaves replaced like this. It is the C1 and it is being used by P1. So won't it create some problems?
Okay. I didn't get you. So you are saying you want to replace this? If it replaces this?
Yes, sir.
No. When do you want to replace? When I brought A.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
This was, okay. So we'll go back to that. So let's assume that the LRU was a different thing. So let's say it was this A and in process 0 only. So now what Amit Bhai is saying is when I bring this small a, when I bring this particular small a because it has generated 0x0, when I bring this small a, he wants to replace C, right? Because that's the LRU.
Yes, sir.
So now what do? You actually write this C to here. You write the C here and replace this with A. Now suppose if it was being used by process 1, it would generate an address like that, right? It would generate an address at some point called 0xC0. Agreed?
Yes.
So now when it comes here, you see that, okay, well, the other thing that we forgot to do was we didn't update this table, right? So we had to update this table. So we said that we have removed this small c, right, and made it a blank, and I have made it this as capital C. It sees that when it generates the address 0xC0, this has been allocated, but it's a miss. So now you again tell this girl, right, you tell this girl to go and fetch this particular C back again, and now you bring it back. Maybe you pick this. It's just like the cache. In the cache, you can keep replacing anything that you want, right?
Yeah, okay, sir.
You're just updating this table. That's more very important. So we haven't yet updated. So let's say there was one more thing that is remaining missing, I guess. AC. What was remaining? Okay, D. AC. Okay, B was remaining. So this is the present state of the system. Like if you look at the present state of the system, in my dream, I have mapped A, B, C, D to A, D, B. And for process one, I have mapped only C. So this address that you generate is called a virtual address because it's virtual. Once you contact the table, you translate that virtual address to physical address. So this table is called virtual page table address. You'll see why it's called that way. Right. So you're just converting this. So when the CPU generates an address, it is always a virtual address. It is never a physical address. There are systems which generate the physical address. If you are building critical machines, like let's say you have built a nuclear reactor. Let's say you are an engineer and you are called to build a nuclear reactor, and the physicists have already built a nuclear reactor. You have some safety equipments, and the safety equipments are controlled by a microcontroller. Then you are not worried to run multiple processes. You want to run one process, but you should make sure that the access times are as minimal as possible because safety is very important. So then you don't have all these designs. You'll just go with the first design and you'll never switch in and switch out because there's only one process running. So depending on that, you might choose to build a system which is critical and you don't want to go about this. But in general, for general day-to-day users, you are not building any critical system. So even though it might become slow, it's okay as long as you are supporting multiple processes. You are trying to do the best design that is possible. Is everybody happy with this design? So these blocks are called pages. Instead of calling it block, I call it page. I mean, that's the only thing. I call it as a page. So if the page entry is here, but it has not been allocated, we call it not a page miss, but we call it a page fault. We'll see why it's called a fault, but it's called a fault. It's a page fault. Okay. So are there any questions regarding this? If you are not understood, please ask me. I can, because we'll still build on this. There's a lot more to build on this.
Sir, how we are dividing this memory address that is given to P0 into 4 blocks?
64 bytes. I could have divided it into 128 bytes also, or 32 bytes also. It's just a convention that I'm following. So I divided this into 30. I mean, I'm not actually physically dividing it. This is just a virtual barrier, right? This is a physical memory, but that barrier means I'm not splitting up. I'm not taking a knife and splitting that memory. Right? And it's just the size is just a convention. Today in modern day processors, it's from somewhere between 8 kilobytes to 16 kilobytes, or maybe 32 kilobytes. Maybe 10 years or 15 years down, back it was 4 kilobytes. But generally the size keeps varying, but the concept remains the same. Okay. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll see whether we solve these 3 problems or not. What was this? Total memory available list. Okay. So now I will ask you a question if you have understood this. So I have a system which has 256 bytes. I follow the previous design. I say that, okay, you have 64 bytes chunk. You have from 0x0 to 0xf. This is the physical memory. So this is the reality. I have A, B, C, D. When process 0 comes, maybe I want to sell this machine and say that you have 1 GB of memory. Right? Another 2 bits. I will tell the process 0 that you have 1 gigabytes of memory, and each memory is split up small a, b, c, d, e. And when process 1 comes, I tell the process 1 that you also have 1 gigabytes of memory. Each split into 64 bytes. I will not modify anything, but launch this process 0. I will launch this process 0 on this. and process 1 also on this. Do you think this will work without me interfering, without me not? I mean, I don't have to. Do I have to make any changes to support this? So do I have to support anything?
It should work, right? Because we are mapping the virtual addresses to the physical.
Yes, right. It should always work. Does anybody have any doubt why it should not work? Or do you think there is some issue with this?
So the table has to be.
Let's say I have some dream where I can store. I mean, we come to the table later. Yes, you are right. That's the problem with the table. Not a problem, but yes. Let's say I have a table where I can have so many entries. Then is there any problem?
No, sir.
No, right? So it should work. It's just that it will be very. It will be very what?
slow. Like there will be many
Yeah.
page faults.
Yeah, because there will be many page faults, right? Because I will, maybe you scheduled small a here, small b here, small c here, small d here, and at later time you ask for E, then F, then G, then maybe process 1 asks for A. You are always switching this and back and forth to this big barrel that you have, right? So there are too many page faults. Okay. So somebody was unhappy with this. Let's build on this. Right? Let's say, okay, somebody was unhappy with this. So what they said is, okay, I am running this machine, right? So I am running this machine, but they said, okay, and maybe their dad gave them more money. Right? So what they did was they went to the market. They went to the market and brought another 256 byte main memory. So they said, okay, I brought another 256 bytes of main memory and plugged it here. Do you think I have to change my program? Or do you think I have to change my program?
No, sir.
No, right? I don't have to change anything. It will just run. That's why today, if you have a desktop with 2 GB RAM, you go to the market, you buy a 4 GB RAM, you just reboot the system, the BIOS will figure out that yes, this guy has added more RAM, and that's it. It will run. The operating system will figure out that yes, more RAM has been added, and it will start using it. So maybe this will start running faster. That's why we say it start running faster, because there will be less page faults. Now, in the previous case, you could only store A, B, C, D, or only 4 pages. Now we are able to store 8 pages. So the number of page faults reduced. So that's why having more RAM increases your performance. You didn't do anything. I mean, you didn't write any optimized code or anything of the sort. You wrote some dumb code. It was running on 256 bytes memory. Now you plug in another 256 memory, you double the memory. Since the number of page faults have reduced, either you can launch more number of processes, or for a single process, you can it will use more memory, which means that there are less page faults, and it works perfectly. So this need not even be 1 GB. I can have 1 terabyte also. I mean, I can run. I mean, I can allow my dream to run as wide as possible, and say, okay, instead of me making $1 million, I will make $1 trillion. It's my dream, and nobody's stopping me. I can run $1 trillion. But when I wake up, I know that I have only 100 rupees in my pocket. Right? So it's just that my life will be slow. But I can dream. When I'm sleeping, I can dream that I have $1 trillion. I mean, nobody can stop me from doing that. Is this clear? Okay. If this is clear, there are other questions. One is, where is this page stored? So we said that, okay, there is this table, right? We said that there is this table. Where is this table stored? We don't know. We haven't yet answered this. We haven't yet answered where is this table stored. Who copies? So we said that there is this girl who is copying from here to here. In cache, it's very clear. If there's a cache miss, I bring a block from the next level and bring it to this cache. So that is handled by the hardware. Here, who handles that? The other is, did it solve the security issue? So we now saw that this has been solved. Right? I hope everybody is happy that this has been solved. Portability has been solved. Security hasn't been solved. So now can a process in this design, can a process generate an address such that it can go and access somebody else's memory?
No, sir. I
No,
think
right? Because you are always converting it. So you have solved the security issue also. But we haven't yet answered these questions. Like, where is this page table stored? Who handles page? So that we'll see tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So are there any questions? How do I design? We'll just down in tomorrow's 9 o'clock class. We'll just see how, where is this page table stored? But how to design?
So this table should be before the cache, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that we'll see where the table should be. So tomorrow we'll answer that, but we'll see only where the table is. But there are efficient mechanisms to design this table, and you will not learn it dive in this course. You will learn it in operating system. And this is not a simple topic to just show you. Just to show you that there is something like this. I don't know whether I've shown you or somebody, or I don't remember now. Just handling this table, that particular table. There is a faculty called Artapava Basu in computer science. Of course, you can write an email, you can ask for like internship if you are really interested in this area. You can see that, I'm just giving an example because I know, but there are hundreds of people like this, I guess, at least few number of people like this. You can see that all from the area, from almost like 2012 or 13, he has been working on large pages, right? TLBs and caches together, page walk stealing, and TLB-based cohort channel on GPUs. His entire group of like few PhD students, master students, I don't know whether he has undergraduate students or not. They just work on this particular area, and he is very well known in the community. He worked in AMD research, I guess. His faculty advisor is a very famous guy. But yeah, there are people who work only on this. This is so important because any optimization that you do directly relates to either security or the performance issue. So if somebody is interested, yes, I would definitely encourage you to go and meet him on whatever. Okay, I think I'm stuck. But anyway, so we'll meet at 9 o'clock tomorrow. I hope people who have come today will also come tomorrow, so that I can continue recording. I'll upload the recording. But if you have any questions, feel free to talk to me. And as I said before the starting of the video, because some of you have joined later, I would repeat again. If you want to do something in the summer, please contact the faculty. Anybody whom you are comfortable with, any area that you want to explore. It need not be one faculty alone. You can work with 2 different faculty. It doesn't matter, as long as you are able to live up to your commitments. Just try to understand the area. You can just write an email to the faculty, either in IIT Tirupati or anywhere else. Generally, with the IIT tag, you'll get a reply. Right? So you can just write an email to IIT Hyderabad person saying that, okay, I'm a student in IIT Tirupati, but I'm interested in doing the summer internship, online summer internship. Can I work with you for 2 months? It's a good thing to just try out and explore. Of course, you can do your own open source projects or work with a company. That is also fine, but it's up to you how you want to use it. But I would say, so that because sitting at home is getting boring, at least for me. So I hope you don't get depressed or anything of that sort. So try to do. So there are people in our faculty department itself. As I said, Dr. Kalidas works on machine learning. Dr. Kondareddy works on deep learning, and Dr. Ajin works on reinforcement learning. I think you know already Ajin. So these 3 are actually working in this learning domain, which is the hottest topic. And I think some of them also have a lot of money, right? So they will be able to pay you the stipend and all those things. If you let's say if you work with me, I will not be able to even pay you 1 rupee because I don't have any funding. But generally, these guys have a lot of funding, so maybe you can also talk to them about it. There's nothing wrong in doing it, right? Because you are working and you are asking to get paid. So try to explore this. If you are shy, if you still want to talk to them, I can set up, I can help you, I can talk to them, I can be the mediator, help you set up the meeting with them. The only thing that everybody would expect is just to live up to your commitments. Right? If you say that I will work, if you are not able to work, you just have to send a mail saying that, okay, I'm not able to work. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Or you can, go ahead.
I have a doubt in the tutorial 3.
Yes, okay.
So the first question said that we have, like when they say that the cache is of a certain size,
Okay.
does it include all the The entire data array and the tag array?
One second. Generally, no, but let me see. Which question?
The first question, tutorial.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It never assumes that if it's a 256 kilobyte 4-way associative cache, it doesn't assume the tag array at all. Generally, nobody assumes the tag array.
Okay, so that's just for the data array, right? That
Yes,
256.
yes.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll stop now. We'll hopefully we'll meet tomorrow. I hope everybody will come back. So we'll meet tomorrow. We'll continue with the discussion.